Good morning. So a couple of days ago, I finally had a long time in coming opportunity to sit down with an old friend and colleague, peer in our hobby, role-playing hobby, Anthony Boyd, a runeslinger, as many people on Google and YouTube, etc., know. And I believe his blog. Um, oh God, I can't remember the name of his. I think his blog is also, or used to be, RuneSlinger, but I can't recall. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. Fantastic conversation and something long overdue. I told him we need to keep in touch. We need to do this more often. I mean, again, we're on different sides of the globe, but schedule wise, I'm more than willing to always find time, whether it be wee hours of the morning or late in the evening, to have a conversation with Anthony. And Anthony's from day one that I came to YouTube in 2010, 2009, 2010, and began to share recaps of my local sessions and my observations about coming back to gaming as an adult with other adults and the whole original Dark Age of channel that I had way back. And he was one of the first to embrace me and talk to me and invite me into the circle. And he's always been uh, a good trusted colleague, good advice, and also just is interested in this hobby beyond buying books and playing the games. Interested in, I think, the entire effect. The what is it that makes this different? What is it that makes this greater experience? What is it that, and in that conversation, stuff that we've taken for granted comes up, and a couple of things I want to talk about here. Great conversation. Again, taking for granted what in character and out of character play means, right? I tend to hear somebody use a definition, and I just assume that I'm in agreement with their definition, or excuse me, or I'll assume what the definition is, or I'll assume the definition that I foster and assume that their version is my version. So this has kind of been the conversation about in character as character play. My definition might not be the exact same one my peers are using, and I realized before Anthony and I have a conversation, we need to share some definitions. So he understands that I might not have the same definition that he's using, and vice versa. And it turns out we're pretty much right on. But he defined three states, and he defined them well, and I agreed with all of them. There was no problem, but it was important for us to go into this conversation sharing the same definition, or we could be talking in circles or end up arguing about something that we actually don't disagree on. You know what I mean? You've got to define your terms, not to argue, just to converse is important, right? Obviously, you better define your terms if you want to lay out an argument, right? If I'm talking about immersion from from a different definition and perspective, and somebody's arguing what their immersion is, and we're at a huge argument, and ironically, we're not talking about the same definition of what immersion is. We've wasted everybody's time, including ours. But so just initially, the simple idea of out of character, and it has never crossed my mind that I can be in character, and this will maybe shock some people, but when I think in character, that is everything that I'm doing, thinking, and sharing with the greater group from my character's perspective as character. However, it's never crossed my mind that I can be in character and having game talk, mechanics speak. And this has probably been one of the things that I've done naturally my entire life. You try to stay in character, but oh yeah, it's time to roll initiative. Okay. And so you're really doing that from your characters in character. But we're talking about stuff that would not be in my character's vocabulary, right? I am a middle age, dark ages, pagan, living in a mud hut, in a grass hut with as a fisherman, right? And roll initiative is not something my character would would. So I think about when roll initiative comes up from me or from somebody else at the table, that is out of character talk. And that would be something that would surprise people, that I would consider that out of character, right? But it's important to recognize, oh, other people are like, well, no, I'm in character even though we're doing this. And it's like, well, yeah. When you put it that way, I stop and I say, oh, yeah, I guess technically I don't leave character to discuss whether I hit the goblin or not, or whether I'm suffering damage or not. I don't necessarily leave character. But this is where these definitions are kind of important. I've always considered out of character play being those kinds of moments, although we're still focused on what we're doing. This to me is, and then extreme out of character, which is for me is out of game play. So out of character for me would not be just making a pop culture reference about Monty Python. That's definitely out of character. But that to me is even out of space. It's out of time. It's out of game, and that kind of stuff really can wreck the whole session for me, right? We all do it, and we do it because we're with friends and we have a good time. Not all of us do it, but what I mean is we all might make subtle references that because we're sharing with friends, and it's important to us to share on a on these sub levels, right? We're sharing the higher element of the game itself, but then once in a while we'll make a reference that other people may not even pick up on. Doesn't matter. We don't interrupt play to do that, etc. Those are okay there, but they all of that to me is out of character play. But more worse than that, it's very often out of play, and that's I would define a third piece of this. What is out of game? What is in game? So in game for me, whether I'm in character or not, is the mechanical speak, is the actual action of playing a game. I have very often called out of character play, when ironically, I'm probably in the headspace of my character even doing that. So that would be in character play, right? That's what I'm saying. So these are interesting things that just popped in my head while not discussing with Anthony, but while watching back the recording. Anthony, by the way, for those who will be interested in this conversation, is editing it, and it will go up on Anthony's channel, edited with annotations and notes, which is going to be fantastic. And then I'll release the raw video that I recorded on my side on our channel later, so people can just watch the raw conversation if they want to. It will be less, it'll be obviously less, probably less quality, and it'll be less engaging as having notes and annotations and references, in the video that Anthony will do. But I have listened back, I should say, not watched back. I've listened back our conversation and been able to pick up things that I realized in that conversation might have been fascinating to talk about. If I had said, "Whoa," to me that's out of character play to reference the game, even though I'm probably in my character's headspace. Does it wreck in character play for me? No, we have to. This is how we communicate, it's how we do it. But if we were saying, hey, define what in character play means for you, I would have defined it strictly, which other people would have said, oh, no, dude, that's, I'm in character and rolling dice, right? And this is where, when we have these conversations, these speaking into the void, where I'm speaking here to potential viewers and subscribers about role playing, and I'll get a comment from somebody who goes, dude, that's bullshit. I'm in character rolling dice. It's not, it's not for them out of character, right? Because we don't use the same definition of in character, out of character play. I would say something that for somebody says that's not my definition of in character, right? And that's what the argument starts there, when in reality, right? Am I arguing what is strictly in character? Well, not really. I am not consciously aware that for me, I've perceived anytime we discuss the mechanics is out of character. Okay. And maybe there are people who feel that way too. I don't know. Okay. So interesting conversation. There's lots more too, but I'm not going to go into our conversation. I'm going to let people enjoy that for what it's worth. The motivations for why this conversation came up was genuine and authentic, and it was important to me at this stage of both my hobby, of both my playing and developing of games, especially as a player who's been frustrated, and as a game designer who wants to make sure I create the game that recognizes that what we ask GMs and players to do complements each other. to achieve a certain state at the table, which again, I've argued that Dark Age of Man, we might not have quite lined those things up. So another great conversation. And again, hopefully Anthony and I will keep in touch and have more opportunities to speak over the course of our future in this hobby. It's too bad I don't get to play with Anthony much. Hopefully one day we'll arrange a way for we can do some playing. But again, it's not easy with schedules and people all over the globe. Very difficult. Anthony, like myself, plays with people who are in Canada or people who are in France. I think he's got people he's played with that are in France and people he's played with that are in his hemisphere of the world, and then people I think he's played with, of course, America, and so we tend to add Puerto Rico, etc. So we share many of these same colleagues too. So anyway, this alone was an interesting thing that I didn't interrupt the conversation to get deeper into in character versus out of character. Um, because I think all of us broadly accept what in character and out of character really is, as we reference it, which Anthony does state at the beginning of that video. Those are certain definitions we're willing to accept. Ironically, listening back, I was like, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about in character play as actually referencing the mechanics. Ironically, very often when I'm in character and playing in character, I'm clearly referencing the game mechanics from that headspace. I just didn't see it. I'm just not defining it that way. And so I would say, oh, I'm in character when we're playing 2D20 Star Trek. It's just we're discussing now for my, in character, the stuff. Um, it's easier to get immersed and stay in character as character if I can minimize game speak. I've talked about that before, which is why I've always liked subtle games, or as I call them, simple games. The subtler the mechanics, the simpler the mechanics to adjudicate an action or adjudicate a conflict allows us to move through those spaces with very little game talk, right? Very little planning, very little tactical talk, etc. Okay. And obviously, the more tactical a game is, whether it's maps and minis or on a virtual tabletop or even in theater of the mind, the more you're going to have those questions. Am I surrounded by goblins? Where's that third goblin? In theater of the mind, you're invariably going to say, okay, where is the third goblin? I've lost track of the third goblin because there's not a map with a mini, so I can see what the third goblin's doing. This is going to be this is going to be an immersion break for many people. I love theater of the mind. I prefer theater of the mind. But imagine you are the kind of person who literally wants to know where the third goblin is. And it's important to you for whatever reason that you know right where that third goblin is to have to ask me because you're in this imagined space, but you really can't imagine if you're allowed to swing your sword or not because you don't know exactly where that third goblin is. And you don't want to make an assumption, I'm going to attack the third goblin. And then the GM says, oh, no, third goblin is 32 feet away from you, dude. And then you're embarrassed. You're then like, oh, why didn't you tell me that, right? And so then it becomes frustration. It becomes, oh, really? Fine, I'll move and then attack the third goblin, and or I tend to facilitate games even if I know the goblin's 30 feet away and Bill says I'm going to attack the third goblin with my sword. I will just facilitate that for him and say, you move 30 feet and attack the goblin. So I'll let him know you've done your melee move 30 feet and you attack the goblin. There is no need to know exactly because I'm going to facilitate that. Now, if he's 200 feet away, right, I will probably make that very clear if I hadn't been theater of the mind that there are goblins above you on a cliff edge, 200 or so on feet away from you, shooting arrows at you, right? So, but again, this is, I've said it before, theater of the mind. I'm far more immersed in when we're playing theater of the mind than I am with virtual tabletop. I certainly am more immersed when I'm not looking at maps and minis at a table. I prefer conversation. I prefer a shared imaginative space. We all don't have to see the castle identically. We only have to know the details of the castle fairly shared fairly, right? There's a front door with an iron gate. It's double door, iron gate, and it's soundly chained shut. How I'm imagining that double door and the chained gate The details of that is it's mine. It's my prerogative, and I don't have to share that with everybody at the table. They don't have to share that with me. They're imagining it's a certain kind of gate and a certain kind of double door and a certain kind of chain, but it does matter that it's a double door with a gate and that gate is chained shut. That is the relevant challenge that we all have to get through. Pick, is there a lock? Can we cut the chain? Can we climb the gate? Right. And so those things work fine for me in theater of the mind, right? The pertinent details we all must know to attack the obstacle, to deal with the obstacle. Um, Whether we all share an image of what that castle, gate, doors, chain look like. No, again, this is something that we all have agency over our own imagination, right, so to speak, whether we want to or not. What I'm seeing in my head will never be exactly the same as somebody trying to describe it, right? Matter of fact, I can misinterpret someone's description of the circular flowers that are embedded in the door, right? How I'm envisioning those flowers in a circular arrangement. Are there multiple flowers in a circular arrangement, or is one flower growing in a circular pattern? You know what I mean? Does it matter? Well, it might if we're solving a puzzle, right? So anyway, I just wanted to share that we had a great conversation. I look forward to that going up on Anthony's channel with his annotations and notes. I think that'll be fascinating. And then I look forward to continuing work on Space Age of Man with Dell as I work out some of these design, I will call them more personal issues from the player's side of the table that are important for me to understand and work out before I can look at Space Age of Man and prepare to develop and design a science fiction game that really understands that what I'm doing on the GM side of the table greatly impacts what the players can and do on the player side of the table. And oh, by the way, what a GM is doing on this side of the table obviously drastically can affect the experience that I'm trying to have as a player. And how can I write a rule book that says here's how you GM this game because we want to facilitate this environment for the players. And oh, by the way, players, the GM is going to GM a particular way, which means this is going to be the experience that you're going to have to embrace because of this, right? And that's something that I did not fully understand or recognize when I when I co-wrote and designed Dark Age of Man with Dell. I understood the key philosophies that made it work when we were playtesting it. I'm not certain I understood how the naive narrator GMC would affect in character as character play on the opposite side of the table. And this was something that I needed to discuss with a third person, not just Dell, which I talk to all the time about this stuff, but also somebody that was outside of this development side of things. And as a frustrated player, somebody saying, I'm not certain why I'm frustrated as a player. And I'm also, I fully believe that people are responsible for their own experiences. I mean, no one is responsible for whether I'm happy or engaged or enjoying my role playing. I think they can be responsible for wrecking it, certainly, and they can be responsible for helping me get to a certain place. But this is never about other people. It's always about what am I doing wrong, or what is it I'm trying to get, and I'm not recognizing I can't get it here. And why is that? Is that something I'll ever be able to fix myself? Because it's something about just how I come into the game. If I just come into the game with a particular kind of focus, particular kind of place, and I can achieve it no matter what everybody else is doing, or no matter how the game is facilitated? Or is it something that I'm banging into a brick wall that, oh, this will never happen in this environment because this is the style of game, right? And these things are important to me, especially as I'm looking at Space Age of Man, not just being another rule book and another regurgitation of what we've already achieved, but hopefully the full uh, evolution of these ideas and that look at both sides of the table equally. Player experience, GM experience. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Dark Age of Man, I really designed and wrote from the GM's perspective. I wanted to affect the GMs who play the game. I wanted to tell GMs, try it this way, do it this way, and here's why. Oh, by the way, players, you're going to have a lot more agency. You need to you need to lead the dance. You need to say some things. You need to get out in front of this because the GM needs you to do that. Meanwhile, not recognizing that what that might in a rule book need to be said verbatim, or more importantly, what I might need to remind players, oh, by the way, if you're a simulationist, this isn't really going to work for you, right? And of course, longtime hobby players will read a book and kind of get an idea, oh, this isn't the kind of role playing I want to play. But a lot of players would play it like D&D and wait for the GM to tell them everything, like wallflowers, and then just want to say yes, no, right, left, up, down, pick lock, draw sword, roll, attack goblin. They aren't thinking that they're going to have to lead the dance, right? So that was the goal of Dark Age of Man: give players the freedom to take more agency, right? Okay. So anyway, and most of my frustrated experiences for those who are watching this didn't come from playing in D20. They didn't come from playing with the guys in Joth in OSR. They didn't come from the Dragon Slayer experiences. Those are exactly the experiences I anticipate they'll be. They have been exactly what I want them to be. I'm talking about my own game, Dark Age of Man, as a player on the opposite side of the table, not running it, being frustrated with why something isn't right. Why am I not feeling what I thought we were creating for the in character as character play style? And probably it allowed those frustrations to really come to the very front because I don't expect that in certain types of games. I don't expect that in D&D, D20, OSRs. But in our game, I expected a certain thing, and I was realizing something is thwarting this, but it can't be the game design because we aren't doing initiative and procedures. Those things we have liberated from the table for GMs and players, which is part of the goal. Part of the goal of Dark Age of Man was to lift these things out of the game so players didn't get caught up in the minutiae procedures and when can I go and when do I roll initiative and when do I swing my sword? And no, we removed all that crapola so you can just play live. But but there was one particular effect that was frustrating my play, and most of it came from being a player in the Dark Age of Man experiences. And I needed to discuss with somebody like Anthony what the hell what's going on here because I'm missing something. I'm not understanding something. And so the conversation helped tremendously. But more importantly, our email conversations just leading up to scheduling the conversation had already put a light bulb on and helped me. So I came into that conversation already having had a realization about certain things. So it was just good. And anyway, for those who are interested in these kind of conversations, tune in, sub up to RuneSlinger and be aware. Hopefully it'll come out in the next few weeks. And it might be worth listening to, right? For sure, you're going to get a candid conversation from me. I'm the first guy to tell people I have experience, 30, 40 years of experience doing this on both sides of the table. I now have the experience of designing, developing, writing, and publishing and sharing with the world a role-playing game. That gives me experience, but it doesn't mean I have all the answers, and it doesn't mean that I'm right, and it doesn't mean that am I an authority? I suppose in a way you are just from experience and design, development, and sharing. But I'm also the first one to say, obviously, there is no hard and fast discipline for this hobby. Um, Again, I've said it before, like choosing a pizza, there is no one true pizza. There is a thing called pizza, but there are umpteen variations of pizza, and every human being has their vision of pizza. When I say pizza to you, you might be imagining a supreme pizza, double dish, whatever. I'm imagining a plain old cheese pizza, New York style plain old cheese pizza. That's what pizza means to me. Now, we can put pepperoni sausage on that, maybe some vegetables on that, but it's not what I envision pizza. When anyone says pizza, my vision is New York style cheese pizza. Period, right? Now, I love pizza from all types and all, but like role playing, I love all kind of role playing. But there is this thing that, oh, pizza for me is this right? If we have a Star Trek, what is that device that lets them simulate their food. They walk up and say, "Give me a chocolate shake," and it materializes a chocolate shake for them. If I walked up to this computer in Star Trek and said, "Give me a pizza," it had better materialize a New York style cheese pizza, but it won't. I would have to say to it, I would have to say to it, materialize me a New York, America circa 1970s New York style cheese pizza. And then it would go, oh, that's what he wants, that. If I just said, give me a pizza, who knows what the computer would spit out, right? What's the definition of pizza? Dough, sauce, toppings. But dough, what kind of dough? It could be sourdough, and it could be mayonnaise sauce, and it could be uh chicken bok choy toppings, right? That would not be a pizza to me, right? So anyway, long story short, this is the thing about our hobby, right? Is recognizing that it's not universal. It's many experiences are universal, but the way we perceive it, define it, and what our wants and desires are for the experience are not universal. They can be shared and we can be close, but um, who knows what thwarts a player's joy at the table. I can pretty much define what thwarts my joy. I can pretty much define what I really want, but I can't necessarily promise that thing matters to Bill. Bill's like, dude, it's roll initiative. It doesn't bother me, right? That kind of thing, right? And again, for me to say it would be nice if I didn't have to say that. That doesn't mean I don't like rolling initiative. It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy D&D, D20, Moldvay D&D. It means it would be cool if I didn't have to do that, right? For a better headspace, right? So anyway, I'll shut up now. But stay tuned for that. I'll also put up the raw conversation after that's up for those who want to just see the raw conversation. That'll be on Role Play Cafe. So thanks again and good day.